I am not into those expletive-filled rants, and there is no but. I just have to get a few things off my chest. Viva Fry, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and for those of you with astute observation skills, you might notice a little something right there on my head. It's not a pimple. Earlier today, I smashed my head on an ornamental piece of art I got for my wife for her birthday a few years back. It's a bird. It's a roadrunner made out of recycled industrial metal like rebar for the base, and the beak itself is made out of sharp metal. It was tucked in the corner of our living room, the birdseed was underneath it, and I just wanted to fill up the bird feeders with birdseed, and I bent over to get the birdseed, and the beak smashed me in the head. People in the park across the street heard me scream. It was straight out of the pits of despair from The Princess Bride.
That is the sound of ultimate suffering.
It hurt. It hurt. And with the headache I have right now, it is the perfect opportunity for me to rant and get a few things off of my chest. I am, like many others I suspect, frustrated and concerned with what I see going on in the world today. There is a meme going around the internet to the effect that it only took a virus with an over 99% survival rate to cause us all to give up our most basic rights and civil liberties. And what makes these memes so effective and so powerful is the element of truth that is ingrained in a short, concise message. I was having a virtual discussion with one of my friends on this very subject, and this person told me, scientists and governments alike throughout the world are in agreement that the best way to slow down the spread of the Myshronosaurus is through continued social distancing. To which I responded, this is always going to be true. There are no viruses in the Antarctica, but this was not the scope of the project upon which we embarked. When the contract was entered into and the lockdown announced 2 or 3 months ago, depending on where you are, it was never to stop the spread of the virus entirely. It was to slow it down, flatten the curve so that we would not overwhelm our hospitals, so that we could get the hospital beds in order, the ventilators in order, the PPE in order, etc. And we did that. We accomplished that mission. Exceptions aside, hospitals were not overwhelmed. They had the required ventilators, many of which remain unused. Emergency field hospitals that were set up just in case the hospital system got overloaded were dismantled, having never treated any patients. We entered into a contract with a clear goal in sight. We accomplished that goal, and somewhere along the lines, it went from flatten the curve to stop the spread altogether. It went from temporary lockdown to indefinite lockdown, from free state to police state overnight. It went from the goal of flatten the curve to a virtual international competition as to who could enact the most stringent rules and regulations. It went from who could enact the most draconian executive orders to who could enforce them with an iron fist. It's an amazing thing. Google the news on Sweden and just read it in chronological order. When Sweden didn't go the route of draconian, almost tyrannical lockdown like the rest of the world, everybody else was saying, just wait 2 weeks, their numbers are going to be through the roof, they're going to suffer the consequences. 2 weeks later, when those predictions of doom and gloom do not come to fruition, wait another 2 weeks. A month later, when those predictions of doom and gloom again do not come to fruition, everybody says, oh, well, look how badly they're doing in comparison to the other Nordic countries who impose draconian tyrannical lockdowns. When the doom and gloom predictions never come to fruition and the spike never comes, then the argument turns into one of, well, look at their death rate per capita compared to the other countries that were on these crippling lockdowns. As if somewhere along the line it became an international competition of sorts among nations to be the best, civil rights be damned. As if the only meaningful statistic on Earth right now to govern national and international policy is the number of Myshronosaurus deaths. As if there's not going to be some necessary casualty trade-off between the basic suspension of modern preventive medicine. As if there's not going to be some massive casualty trade-off for people not getting elective surgeries. People not going to hospitals even when they need to because they have been traumatized so much by the government around them that they are not going to the hospitals when they need to. In Canada, as at shooting this vlog, we are at 5,909 fatalities as a result of the Myshronosaurus in Canada. 5,909 fatalities in Canada, and roughly half of those come from long-term healthcare facilities or old person homes. Montreal is being regarded as the Myshronosaurus epicenter of Canada. We have over 2,300 fatalities, and you know what? Almost 85% of them are coming from long-term healthcare facilities or old people homes. We're closing schools, canceling summer camp, blocking off playgrounds for a demographic that is virtually unaffected by the virus while failing to protect the people who are most susceptible to it. Our government is more intent on forcing the forfeiture of civil liberties than actually doing what is required to protect those who are most at risk. How is that not frustrating? Now, I know some of you are going to say the numbers would be much worse if we were not doing what we're doing. Others might say that while there are no fatalities for certain age brackets, there is nonetheless potentially some evidence to suggest that some kids will have lasting effects if they catch the virus. But here you see we have moved the target from the measurable and achievable flattening the curve so as not to overwhelm the healthcare facilities to the immeasurable and unachievable goal of stopping the spread altogether. If the government had initially said, we go into lockdown until we achieve the discretionary level or lack thereof of transmission of the Myshronosaurus according to the government opinions, I think we might have had a different perspective of this proposed lockdown. The government effectively presented us a bike and said, this bike costs $500, go out and make $500 so you can buy this bike. We go out, we make $500, we come back, the government says, no, now it costs $1,000, go out and make another $500. We go out and make another $500, $1,000 come back, the government says, you know what, I don't know how much I want to sell this to you for, but $1,000 is not enough anymore. People who statistically don't need the protection are on lockdown. They're unable to work. They're unable to make money, to pay taxes, to support the very healthcare system that we didn't want to overload from the beginning. Above and beyond that, because people have been put out of work by the government, now the government is saying, here's $2,000 a month until you can go back to work if your job exists when you go back. People are not working to make the money to pay the taxes that are required to support the healthcare systems while the government is giving them $2,000 a month in the interim. People who statistically, based on their demographics, were at minimal risk of the mycoronavirus in the first place. The livelihoods of people, their very existence is being destroyed indefinitely by a government who then says, come to us for support while we destroy your lives. We'll let you have your life back when we achieve the goals we now think we need to achieve, which were not the goals we told you we needed to achieve when we set out on this adventure together. How is that not frustrating? And the level of terror, fear, and trauma that has been instilled in the population, I mean, it's over the top. We now have people who feel compelled to wear face masks, not in crowded stores, not in hospitals, but outside while jogging in open air. The checkpoints and questions to enter stores, the social distancing, the constant reminders to wash your hands, even if you haven't left your house in 3 days. It's created a level of paranoia such that people are wearing face masks in open air when there is not another person in sight. I mean, that is like putting on suntan lotion while you're in your living room. People have been conditioned to fear other people. Walking on the street, it's like people think that if they come within 2 meters of you, they're somehow going to get electrocuted to death. People literally jumping in the street to avoid getting within 2 meters of another person as though something can just jump across, grab them by the face and suffocate them. I would think that the greater danger than coming within 2 meters of somebody on the street is jumping into the street and getting hit by a car. We are being conditioned and traumatized to fear other people. At the same time, we are being taught that we live at the mercy of our government. Our very freedoms, our very livelihoods, our very existence exists at the whim of the government. We have now learned that if the government deems a risk to be great enough, they can take your existence away. They can lock you in your homes indefinitely with no end in sight, with no objective in sight. Loss of our most basic civil liberties, being conditioned to fear other people, totally ignoring the casualty trade-off that is necessarily going to follow from these draconian measures. Now we're being warned that as a result of the cure implemented by the government, it might cause hundreds of millions of people to starve to death. What do you think the governments of the world are going to do then? They're going to find a solution to the bigger problem they created while trying to solve another problem. The measures implemented don't even make any sense. Canceling school for a demographic that statistically has virtually no risk. Okay, it's not being done for them, it's to protect those who are at risk. Well, here's an idea then. Protect those who are at risk while allowing those who are least at risk to get back to life. And then to add insult to injury, while our government is not even sitting regularly, you have Prime Minister Justin Trudeau passing sweeping gun bans by order in council during a pandemic when the government is not sitting. And for anybody who has not read that lengthy order, it was not drafted overnight. It had clearly been in the work for some time, and our Prime Minister decides that the best time to pass a ban is by order in council during a pandemic while government is not even sitting. It doesn't even matter if you are 1000% in agreement with the law. That should be disconcerting for everybody. And what I find most frustrating and disconcerting about it is that people have just accepted that this is the way it is. We have now established the precedent that the government can destroy your livelihoods, take away your fundamental rights and liberties, lock you in your house indefinitely if it determines that the risks warrant it. All of this over a virus with a survival rate of over 99%. Alright, that is my rant. Those are my frustrations. I'm not sure if I feel any better, and I'll see how I feel about this video when editing it, but if you are watching it, it is because I have published it. Wait. One more thing, the most important thing. We were told that we needed to go on lockdown to flatten the curve so that we could get ventilators, PPE, and medicines to treat those people who are going to need them going into our healthcare system. What did we learn after the lockdown went into effect? We were lacking ventilators, we were lacking PPE, and we were totally dependent on China for medicines. We discovered that we didn't even have the equipment we were going to need, and we needed to buy it from China. I discovered for the first time in my entire life how utterly dependent we were on China, not just for things that we don't really need, but for essential medical supplies and medicines. And if there is one lesson that we need to draw from this as a nation, is that we cannot be reliant on any foreign country for essential medical supplies and essential supplies altogether. We need to be independent, we need to have stockpiles, we need to be able to produce what we need at home. And we need to be able to do this so that the next time there is a problem like this, we don't need to go on lockdown, cripple the economy, put people out of work. We can just respond to our own needs for ourselves. Any country that is reliant on another country for essential supplies, regardless of whether or not that other country is hostile or friendly, is itself not a free country. They are held hostage to that other country. Alright, and now I'm really done. And with that said, if you like my videos and you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm. If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment, but above all else, take care of yourselves. It looks like we are going to start heading back to some degree of normalcy to the extent that that exists once we are all allowed to. Summer is hopefully coming both physically and metaphorically, and now you know your vlog. Peace out.